So the Las Vegas Raiders missed out on having the #1 overall draft pick, and that could actually benefit the Raiders. Now hear me out before you click off on this, because I know a lot of us are upset about losing the possibility of having that #1 overall draft pick. But if the Raiders were to pivot away from Shedeur Sanders, which has been all of the hype with the #1 overall draft pick for the past several months, and do something really intelligent this year, which is to stack up some picks and get some really high quality players that are going to help us in the long run, the Raiders could actually have a better long-term team than if we were to have just drafted Shedeur at pick #1. Also, I want to tell you guys that if you want to win our grand prize of the Eberly Stock Switchblade backpack with a whole bunch of EDC goodies, go and check out the second link in the description, which is our other channel, Black Rain Official, as we are getting ready to head out on another survival adventure deep up in the mountains for your guys' entertainment and education. Now let's get into today's video. I want to talk about if the Raiders end up with the current draft selection that we have right now, which is pick #6, that is still quite a valuable pick because there will be some very good players that other teams will definitely need and want. There's one defensive end named Abdul Carter, who is a top 10 draft pick. There is Tatario McMillan, who is a top 10 wide receiver draft pick. There's also tackles, and there are some other players that other teams are going to want to move up to go and get to add to their team. But the Raiders need something very important, and that is offensive guards. We have our left tackle. We may have our right tackle. Still need to see how he performs in year 2 in DJ Glaze. And we have our center in JPJ, no doubt. Jordan Meredith is serviceable. Dylan Parham is okay. The guard position is the weak point on our team, and there are 3 guards that will be coming in this draft who are absolute studs, and the Raiders should do everything they can to make sure they land at least one, if not all 3 of these guys. And we're going to go through each one of them and how the Raiders could end up landing them. So again, if the Raiders have the #6 pick, then the Raiders could trade back to pick 15 to 20. That's going to garner you, obviously you're still in the first round, so you've got that leverage there. And then you're going to be able to get an additional second round, hopefully an early second round in this coming year's draft, and probably some compensatory picks later in 2026 as well. Maybe like a 3rd or a 4th round pick. That would be fantastic for the Raiders to have 2 second round picks in this draft and 2 third round picks in this draft and still be in the first round. So with that pick, let's say we move to pick 18. The Raiders should first look at Tyler Booker out of Alabama, left guard. He's also played some left tackle, but he is primarily a left guard. The dude's an absolute stud. He is a day 1 starter, an upgrade for sure over Dylan Parham, and it'll really help to solidify that offensive line. 1, with depth, and number 2, making sure that we can keep JPJ at center where he needs to stay, because Andre James needs to go. We need to cut him, get rid of him. But at the same time, we're also going to have to look at making sure that we have somebody who can also play center, and Dylan Parham can do that. So we keep Dylan Parham on there kind of as a rotational player, a fill-in player who can fill in at center in case something were to happen to JPJ. But you go and you draft at pick, say, 18 of Tyler Booker, who is projected to be a mid to late first round draft pick, early second round draft pick. You don't want to miss out on him. He is an absolute stud, and you've got to get him. So I would say take him in the first round. And then in the second round, you can take Tate Ratledge, who is the right guard for Georgia. He is a multi-year starting right guard. The dude has been, again, another absolute stalwart. Both of these guys are fantastic in the power run scheme, which I think the Raiders need to get back to. Get out of the zone blocking. We're not built for that. It's not going to work. Get back to the power, and then make sure that you have these 2 rookies starting on day 1, because they're both upgrades over Dylan Parham and Jordan Meredith. Now, if something were to happen and say Tyler Booker's not on the board by pick 18, 19, 20, wherever we ended up trading back, then there is a consolation prize, and that's Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. In fact, I would say Donovan Jackson and Tyler Booker are like 1A, 1B when it comes to left guard. Both of these dudes are absolute studs in the power run game. They are absolute anchors when it comes to pass protection. And here's the great thing about these three guys. Out of all of the guards that I researched, these three guys have one thing in common. The most common thing about them is they love to finish their blocks. They are considered nasty offensive linemen. At the same time, they all have a reputation for being leaders in the locker room and on the sideline as hype dudes. Sound familiar? Sound like a JPJ? Yeah, exactly. When you watch these dudes play, they play just like JPJ did in college. And when you watch them on the sidelines, they're hyphy just like JPJ is right now with the Raiders. How fantastic would it be to add a couple more JPJs to this offensive line? That's what the Raiders need to do because, listen, we're not going to get Cam Ward. We're not going to get Shedeur Sanders if we're at pick number 6. I guarantee you Tom Telesco is not going to sell the farm to move up to pick number 1 or number 2 to get one of these two quarterbacks who are not considered to be the most elite quarterbacks coming out of college in the past several years, kind of like we had in last year's draft. This quarterback draft class is considered very weak. Therefore, the Raiders should absolutely take advantage of solidifying this offensive line, which has gotten better, but is still kind of the weak point on this team. Now, once you have done that, because remember, you have 2 second-round draft picks. You also have 2 third-round draft picks. There's a guy named Dylan Gabriel out of Oregon who is most likely going to end up winning the championship this year in the college playoff. Dylan Gabriel, listed at 6 foot, he is a bit small, and the knock on him is an underpowered arm. However, he can throw the deep ball. He can't throw a 50-yard deep ball, but he can throw a 35-yard ball, no problem. One of the issues, though, is that he does sometimes on those deeper routes underthrow his receiver just a bit. It's kind of 50-50. Sometimes he hits him right in stride. Sometimes he's a little bit underthrown. One thing he never does is overthrow him. So that could be a little bit of an issue. And this is why he is projected, even though he is probably going to be the national champion, he is still projected to be a mid-second round, early third round guy. One, he's going to be 25 years old. He's been in college for 6 years, and therefore his age is kind of an issue. Number 2, his height. He is only 6 feet tall. Those are all the negatives with him. I also don't believe he's actually 6 feet tall. I would say he's probably closer to 5'11". Everybody lies when they come to their height in sports. And so I'm guessing he's probably 5'11", but maybe he really is. Here's some of the pros about Dylan Gabriel and why the Raiders are rumored to be interested in him and why I think it would be a good idea to draft him in the second round with that second pick that we got by trading back. Number 1. He's from Hawaii. He's Hawaiian, so he has a great tan, and therefore he won't get fried and burnt up on the practice field in that blazing hot sun in Las Vegas. But all jokes aside, really, he is a pinpoint accurate quarterback. This dude can throw the ball anywhere on the field with absolute laser accuracy. Again, a little bit more of a struggle when he gets past 35 yards, but 35 yards and shorter, the dude is absolutely phenomenal. The other great thing about Dylan Gabriel, he is a mobile quarterback. And when I say a mobile quarterback, this dude has spidey sense on the back of his neck, and he simply just squirms his way out of sack after sack after sack. He just gets out of them. And he can throw the ball whether he's running left or he's running right. Now, his preference is to throw left his preference is to run left because he is a left-handed quarterback. Kind of a drawback, but also it can benefit a team because now defenses have to kind of switch how they're going to play this guy because he's not going to traditionally run to his right like a right-handed quarterback is. He's going to run to his left. One thing about him is when he's running, his accuracy is just as good as when he's standing in the pocket with no pressure. This dude's able to throw the ball off platform with that laser pinpoint accuracy that has, very rare quarterbacks are able to do. So the fact that he's able to get out of the pocket, play off platform, and still throw pinpoint laser accurate passes is one of his biggest attributes, but it's not his only big attribute. One of the other great things about Dylan Gabriel and why I believe that the Raiders are very highly interested in drafting him, despite some of the drawbacks of the physicality issue, is this dude is squirmy. He's not Jaden Daniels elite speed. He's not going to be Jalen Milroe type 4.3 speed. He doesn't have that kind of speed and athleticism. But this dude simply seems to have a different level once he takes off. It's kind of like racing a V8 souped up, heavy 7,000 pound truck versus a turboed Honda Civic. The Honda Civic in the short run is going to burn you. But in the long run, that V8 is going to outdo you. He kind of has that Honda Civic speed with the turbos on it. Once he starts moving, he's just lightning fast and he takes off. He doesn't have the top end speed. He's not going to outrun cornerbacks in the NFL at the NFL level, but he is going to pick up those first downs over and over and over again. And this requires defenses to put a spy on him because he's so squirmy and because he can go and pick up those first downs and occasionally pick up a really big gainer and a touchdown. Now, if you get him within 5 yards of the touchdown, this is where defenses are really going to have to key in on Dylan Gabriel, because he's not only good at throwing those pinpoint accurate touchdown passes, but he will absolutely squirm his way out of the pocket and into the end zone over and over and over and over again. One of the negatives of him is being 5'11", maybe 5 foot or maybe 6 foot tall tops. But that's also a benefit for him when it comes to him being a running back with the ball, because he hides underneath his offensive linemen, which makes the secondary and the linebacking core of the defenses have a very hard time finding where he is and where he's running, which is why he has racked up so many touchdowns on the ground and throughout his entire career. Now, lastly, with Dylan Gabriel, and this is very important, he's been in college for 6 years. He's been with 3 different teams. And all 6 years, this dude has had major production, minus 1 year where he had some injury issues. But other than that, this dude has been phenomenally just reliable. He's going to get you over 3,000 yards every year. He's going to get you 25 to 35 touchdowns every single year, and he's not going to throw more than 6 or 7 interceptions. He also doesn't have a fumble problem either, like some of these other mobile quarterbacks, and that's why I think the Raiders should go offensive line with our first 2 picks, pick 1 in the first round, pick number 2 in the second round, and grab Dylan Gabriel in the second round with our additional second round pick that we would garner from trading back from pick number 6 to pick number 16 to 20. Guys, if you agree, let me know down in the comments. And if you disagree and you think that the Raiders should draft somebody else, let me know down in the comments who you would like to see the Raiders go out and draft. I'll see you guys in the next video.